In this video today, we are going to talk about creating snowy effects using watercolor. Now, the best part about all three of these techniques is we're not using any white paint. It's all just watercolor and a few extra things you might have laying around your house. Alright, so let's get started. You'll need your favorite watercolor paper, water, a large flat brush like this, a round brush, and the only two colors of paint we'll be using are cerulean and indigo. So the first technique starts by wetting the entire paper with clean water, and then I'm using a mixture of cerulean and indigo to get an initial light wash. I put this on about 2/3 of the paper, leaving the bottom third as if it's the ground with snow on it. Then I am dipping straight into my indigo and using it pretty thick so that it's very pigmented and we have a lot of paint that is coming onto the paper, but because we have previously wet the paper, it's moving around and flowing really well. And while it's still wet, this is where the technique comes in. All I have on my brush is clean water, and I'm using another brush to tap that clean water onto those very highly pigmented areas, and it is creating little snow bursts as the pigment is pushed out away from where the water is kind of splattering onto the paper. I think the key here is to make sure that you have a very pigmented area. That's why I placed so much indigo, because then you'll get a really nice contrast between those lighter splotchy areas and the darker indigo paint. And that was the first technique. I love that one because it's so easy. You already have water and it leaves a very nice, subtle, snowy effect, especially as it dries. Now, all of these techniques actually start the same way, where we paint the entire section with clean water. We are leaving a space down at the bottom for snowy ground. We are starting with a lighter patch in the middle and then surrounding it with indigo before we actually get to the technique that creates the snowy texture. I thought it would be fun to show you these techniques as if I was painting a landscape instead of just painting an area of the texture. And then after I finished this video, I thought I should do a video where I show you how to turn this into a landscape. So that video is coming Saturday. But this second technique, number 2, is salt. Salt is incredible. Salt is incredible for creating snowy textures. You just need to let it dry. And I mean completely dry. If you try to take it off while it still has paint trying to absorb into the salt crystals, it will smear and look really bad. So just sprinkle a little bit of salt. I used table salt, but there are a lot of different types of salt that you can use. So experiment with that. But I also love that while I'm painting the beginning of this third technique, you can see those crystal patterns starting to form on the painting in the second one because the salt draws up pigment and pushes it away. And now technique number 3 is saran wrap. Now, if you don't buy saran wrap, you can use a lot of different materials for this, things that come in the mail or things that you might get in a package, but something that is kind of plasticky and can wrinkle that you can push down on your paper, and then you just need to let it dry and it forms the coolest icicle texture. I just want to press down as much of it onto the wet paint to create as much texture as possible. And then now that the salt has completely dried, we can start chipping away at it, rubbing it off. I love the texture that salt makes. It is so cool. And then we're going to remove the saran wrap, and it probably won't be all the way dry since the plastic is going to keep it from drying completely. But once we remove it, we can let it fully dry, but it makes those cool icicle textures up in the sky. Now your paintings are ready to add something in the